All right, today is episode 2 on this 604 crate engine. And just to clarify, because there was a lot of confusion in the episode 1, a 604 crate engine is a small block Chevrolet 350. It's a circle track deal. It's basically just a factory aluminum head, 10-to-1, basic small block Chevrolet with an intake and a carburetor and a little bitty baby roller cam. So hopefully that'll clear. And you can just Google CT 604 or 604 round track racing or something if you want to know more about it. But anyway, so today we got it in the home, and just hang loose and we'll go over everything we're doing. All right, so I made a post on our Facebook page. So the block had a bolt broke off in the fuel pump mounting hole, and the customer tried to fix it, or some of their help tried to fix it, and just made an absolute mess out of it. So we've been trying to get all that fixed because they broke a tap off in the hole, and so we got all that corrected yesterday, and we got it in the home and got a torque plate on, and I measured everything. It looks pretty good. We just need to freshen up the cylinders, and they've got a little bit of wear at the top. I suspect it was rich. Come over here. I think you can see it. So I went ahead and dusted the home through this hole. And you can see just there's a shadow all the way around the top where the top ring parks at TDC. So I'm going to assume, and by looking at the tops of the pistons and the combustion chambers, I'm sure it was rich. And that's the downfall of running an engine rich all the time, is it washes the oil down. Now the pistons, the skirts look really good. The cylinders visually look good. They measure good. They're just a little bit, 2 or 3 tenths big right at the top. Not a big deal, because once this season's over, then it's going to be time for a new block, because the rules say you can only bore these things 30. And when we got it, it was 20, so we had to go 30. And it's run a whole season, so next season he'll have to get a new block. We can salvage all the other components, but we'll just have to start fresh with a new block. So I'm gonna come in here and just dust hone through all the cylinders, and we'll see how far we get on this video. We're gonna try to put this thing together. If we can get it honed and washed, we're gonna try to put it together next week. So all right, here we go. Yeah, and it's pretty much the same way. It's not as bad as this one. You can just barely see a little spot in the top of that one. But they all measure pretty much identical. And on a small block Chevrolet, when you pretty much always, these 2 cylinders run a little hotter than these 2. So these will be a little leaner just because there's 2 exhaust valves side by side. So, generally on a small block Chevrolet, the 4 outer cylinders are always a little richer than the 4 center cylinders. and that's about the same as the one beside it. Yep, so this one back here is the worst one for sure. But like I say, overall, they look fine. Yeah, I mean, we a couple of tenths big, so that's well within spec. All right, so I'm gonna do the same thing on the other side. I'm not gonna bore you with it. I'll get it flipped over. We'll get the other side honed, and we're gonna get it out of here, get it washed, and then I'll bring you back when we're ready to knock the cam bearings in it and start checking some clearance. And I hope we're gonna do that straight away. So hang loose, we'll be back. All right, we gotta get the cam bearings knocked in this thing. So just FYI, if you look on the flap, it'll tell you what the bearing number is for which position. And obviously, you know, the front is position 1, the back is position 5 in all blocks. So just keep that in mind because the bore sizes are a little different, and some of them you can actually get them in, but it'll be so tight that it's no bueno. Always just put a little lube on the bearing so we don't gold it up. So it tells you the next position, 3 and 4, both are number 3 bearings. And you'll see us, well, if you can see, I'm half blind. Dang, that's pitiful. It ain't got crap on it. That's crazy. I mean, usually it's stamped plain as day. Yeah. Oh, well, I don't know if you can see it, but I can see it, and it'll have the part number stamped right in it. But this one here ain't got a blooming thing stamped in it. That's the first time I seen that. But I'm sure that, like everybody else, the cam bearing company is struggling for help. Yep, that's odd. But unfortunately anymore, none of this stuff should surprise us. Yep. Get on there. Mm-hmm. 2 and a 5. 2. All right, so we need to take it, we got to set it down off the stand and then go in from the other side to do the number 1 bearing. So hang loose and let us get it off the stand, and then we'll bring you back. And so this thing, come over here and look. So that way we got the cone in the back, and then we keeping it tight as we drive it in the front. So that's what keeps us straight. But with these rigid drivers, you can't get them down in between and get it back out. So I made this one, and I just make them as we go for stuff we need. And so I actually had to modify this one because I had just made it, and I made a blind hole like the original one, but it won't fit in between the casting. So I just drilled it on out and finished tapping it through. That way I could do it in reverse. But it worked just fine. Another thing that is a good idea to do is, and I don't see this problem as much as it used to be, especially on small blocks. Let me see if I can. There we go. Put the cam in, check the cam before you get a whole bunch of stuff put together. because from time to time you will have fitment issues. For instance, and some people made mention of it, on the LS9, right when I got the cam all the way in, it was just snug, right? It wasn't tight, and it would turn by hand, but it was a little snug, but the bearing clearance was good. So what that tells us is the tunnel ain't perfectly in line. But the nice thing about cam bearings is they have a really thick layer of babbitt, so the babbitt will move around without destroying the bearing. I mean, back in the day, it was all the time you would have the number 5 on a small block Chevrolet would be tight. And so what we would do, we would actually, and again, this is 25 years ago, shoot, 30 years ago. We would cut slits in the back with a cutoff wheel on a side grinder. We'd cut slits in the number 5 journal on an old junk cam, and we would take that cam and stick it in and turn it, and it would ream that number 5 cam bearing and get some clearance in it, and then you could put a normal cam in. And so we just had old junk cam. We cut it about 6 slots around it like a reamer, and we'd put that thing in, turn it, and it'd shave out a little bit of babbitt. We'd put that thing together, and that crap worked for 100 years. So, and some people still do it today. I don't do that anymore, because now we got better equipment, and we can bore a bearing or whatever we need to do. But a cam bearing just a little bit snug is absolutely no problem. The worst are FE Fords, and I have seen some big block Fords with that problem. And man, again, probably the worst I've seen is FEs, and we've actually had to polish some cam journals to get enough clearance where you could even get the cam in the motor. It was so bad. But like I say, you know, if it's something serious, we can put the bearing in the lathe and actually bore the bearing and make a nice finish and get the clearance where we need to. But usually the problem is alignment. So when you bore the bearing, you may get the cam to go in, and it'll have a bunch of clearance over here on this side and still be tight on this side. So that's why it's not always a viable option. But you do see a tunnel alignment, because a lot of these OEMs, they rough bore the cam tunnel and they put the bearings in, and then they finish bore the bearings all at one time. So that's why we see that problem a lot. But anyway, it's just a good idea to put the cam in before you get everything else in. That way you know that the cam fits and you don't have no crazy issues that you need to address before you get all the way to the end of the road. Yep, so that's just absolutely perfect. I mean, it's just light, and I ain't even got no oil on it, and it's just lightly snug. So we good to go there. So we'll get it back on the stand, and we'll get a crank in this thing and move on. All right, so Andrew got the caps off. We're gonna get some assembly lube in the bearings, and then we're gonna get this crank laid in. Can't hardly see the numbers. Uh, you always want to be careful when you're tightening these things down. You know, most engines, late model stuff ain't quite so bad, but earlier engines, you know, you can have that cap cocked up, and I've seen it happen more than once. People zip all the bolts down with an impact gun, and it hang on that lip and break the cap in half. And I mean, you know, just use common sense, but I have seen it happen. Oh yeah. All right, so I'm gonna snug the thrust just a little bit. And grab my dead blow. Set that thrust. All right, and again, let me find a jump bolt. I would just, so you ain't struggling, turn your stand up on the side, and then use the leverage pushing down to torque your bolt so you ain't dragging your stand all over the place. All right, so the camera crank's in, and we're gonna get our gallery plugs in before we put the timing set on it. So on these drive-in plugs, I generally just put a little bit of Loctite around the outside. It's like a safety thing. I mean, I don't do it every single time, but generally I do, and it may not amount to a hill of beans, but I feel better about it. And on these late model blocks, these two different sizes. And we got the camshaft retainer plate. That's the beautiful thing about a one-piece rear sail block. You know, if you want to go roller, boy, it's a lot cheaper. You ain't got to buy a thrust button. You ain't got to buy retrofit lifters. It'll save you about $300 probably. Mm-hmm. So this is an original GM timing set. I mean, it ain't the original, but it is a original. Because you got to run a plastic timing cover like the Vortex on this motor, on this class legal crap, and so you can't run like a double roller or something. So you gotta run this stock style stuff. So that just. But I mean, I ain't never had any trouble with them. I mean, it's a nice big old beefy timing set. I mean, it's not tight, but it just doesn't give trouble. And I mean, they may break, but I ain't never seen one break. But usually every second, I think that's what I've been doing. Every second freshening, I put a new one in. And luckily the little kit that you buy, it comes with the timing set and a new cam retainer plate and all new bolts. So every second one, it gets all new bolts also. Yep. And I done degreed this thing, so it's good. We're using the same components, so we know nothing's out of whack. All right, so I think we can flip it over and start checking some. Well, let's check the rod bearing clearance. That's the next thing we need to check. Yeah, the raw journals are down some. The bearings look really bad in this motor the very first time when it got here. So last time we freshened it, we had to put half a set of ones in the rods to get the clearance where we wanted it to be. So I suspect that's what it's going to take again, because it's all, I mean, it's in, but it's all the way on the bottom of the tolerance. Now, the mains was okay, but the rods, they just actually, so far, almost every one of them has been about a tenth under the minimum dimension, which again, that ain't as much important as what is the clearance, with whatever bearing we use. Yep, so every single one of them is about a tenth under. So with that being said, we got a dimension. So what we're gonna do is, luckily, a small block and an LS use the same rod bearing. So luckily on that LS9, to get the right rod bearing clearance, we needed a half set of standards and a half set of ones. So we actually have those two half sets left. And I bet that's going to fix this problem. So we're going to use that and build a rod, and then we'll measure the bearing clearance and just see what it says. So hang on, we'll get all that set up and we'll be right back. All right, so we tried a standard and a one, and it was like 3. And so now I've got a full set of ones in, and we're like 2.6, give or take. So I'd love for it to be a little tighter than that, but the crank is just to the limit. So the next time around, it's just gonna have to be turned. We'll just turn it 10-10 and start over. Same thing with the cylinder bores. I mean, they're to their max and they can't go anymore. So the next year, this thing is gonna have to have a new block and gonna have to grind the crank, and then the heads is about to the limit too. So, and that's the only thing with this class rule crap. They just make it so difficult. They got a deck height rule, they got a head CC rule, they got, just rules on top of rules. So you can you can only freshen a motor so many times, and it's just, you got to start over, and this crap is extremely expensive for what it is. It's just insanely expensive to buy one of these crate motors, but it is what it is. So we got the clearance worked out. We're going to get all the rods and pistons loaded with bearings, and then we'll start checking some ring gaps, so just hang loose. All right, so we gapping these rings, and we shooting for 18, and man, I don't know why, but these are total seal rings, and you know, all of the rings we generally use, like from Diamond and Wiseco, if you if the first ring takes 20 off to get to the specified gap you want, the other 7 will be almost identical. I mean, within a thousandths or two. I'm on ring 4 or 5. Yeah, I'm on ring 5, and man, they are just all over the place. I mean, the first one took 30, the second one took 20, the third one took 23. I mean, they just all over the place, and it's just absolutely horrible. So I hear people all the time, because you know, normally I'm using the NPR GFX style rings in most of this stuff, but you know, this is a little different application. But you know, I tell people I can file rings in 15, 20 minutes and I'm done. And a lot of other engine builders are like, oh man, it takes me, you know, 45 minutes or an hour. Well, I see why. I mean, if you're using this kind of ring and they all like that, I mean, you're gonna have to gauge every single ring. And that takes a long time, and it costs a lot more money to do that than it does, you know, if you got a consistent ring pack and you can figure out the first one and just run through it. So just be aware, if you know, using these things, that, and maybe it's just this set, I don't know, because I don't use a lot of this brand ring much. I mean, I have, but like I don't use them all the time, so I don't remember really being like that a lot. But again, it just don't stick out because I just don't use them much. But anyway, but I'm gonna finish up. I'm gonna finish up this gapping and get this done, and then we'll bring you back when we start loading stuff up. All right, so I got the rings. I got the rings all wiped down, and that's what was on the rings. It might just be Cosmoline or something, I don't know, but boy, they was nasty. One thing I can say for sure is the second rings were way more consistent than the top rings were, so I don't know if that's, I don't know. It just is what it is, but we got them all worked out. I'm gonna get all the rings loaded onto the pistons right quick, and then we're gonna start popping these things in. So I've got, I guess you can see it, I got all my rings laid out, and Andrew went ahead and put all the rod bearings and all the rods and got all that ready. So I do need to still oil my wrist pins. I hadn't done that yet, but we'll do that when we put some lube on the bearings. I had on my last video with putting pistons on, I mean rings on pistons, I had a commenter, they didn't like me swinging them around like that. They said that the ring manufacturer says that's the first thing you shouldn't do. But not so much with the real thin, high performance stuff. These are a little thicker, and I don't really like these so much, but the thin ones is no problem. But when you get into like, for instance, big block Chevrolet, big block Ford or something with 5/64 rings, and or even a big block Mopar, they are a nightmare. A 440 Mopar, the top ringland, this area here is so thick that when you hook it on and swing it around, you really got to twist that ring radially. Now that's a problem maybe. So a ring expander, may be a better choice. But even with a ring expander, it has to expand that ring so much that it almost yields the ring, and you can hang one on and it'll actually stretch it. It'll be bigger around than it was. And I don't like that. I'd rather the ring have some radial twist in it than I had expand it beyond where it yields. Because again, the radial depth on some of them big, I call them junky stock type pistons, the radial depth is so much that you have to grow that ring so big to get it to hang over, that it's not really good either way. I mean, either way is just not a good solution. They just shouldn't make them that way, but they do, and you got to get them on there one way or the other. And I got a ring expander, and I have used it on stuff like that. You just got to. But on this stuff, I just roll them on, and if it's a problem, it'll just be a problem, because this is the way I'm gonna do it, and it ain't never let me down. We behind on cam orders, so I got Andrew over there on the grinder while I do this. And this motor's got to make a race, so we're trying our best to get it done so they can pick it up. I don't know when you're gonna see this video, but it's Friday here, so we're trying to get this thing done today so they can pick it up Monday, because I think they got a race late next week or something. Maybe I don't remember exactly. And then that's another thing, I personally like to load all my rings, all my bearings, and have all that ready before I start assembling the short block. That way, if you forget anything, if you come up with an extra ring or an extra oil rail or whatever, you can look through everything before you done stuffed them in the motor, and then have to push some pistons back out because you done missed something. And I've seen it. I've seen an oil rail get left off. I have left an oil rail off. So anything can happen, and you definitely to me, it's just better to load it all before you go like that. So I'm gonna lube all of these wrist pins and bearings right quick. I apologize, I'm probably right in the way of the camera. Well, so that's pretty much a short block. I gotta pop the oil pump apart and go through it, clean everything, inspect it. I intend on using the pump that was in it last year. Um, I rarely see oil pump problems. People, all the oil pumps wore out, and that's why we ain't got no oil pressure. I mean, the oil pump lives in a bath of oil. So I probably took apart 1,000 oil pumps and inspected them. And unless debris has went through the pump, generally there's just nothing wrong with a pump. So if we got a pump that's working and it's happy and there's no issue, we always just disassemble them, clean them, just visually inspect them and check, just check everything, make sure nothing's crazy, make sure the bypass valve is working and it's clean and the bore looks good. We put them back together and run them again, because I just feel like a proven part that there's nothing wrong with is way better than a new part that's not proven, because we all see so many problems. So that's what I've been doing for, I don't know, 20 years, and it hasn't ever let me down. So unless there's something wrong with the pump, but I'm gonna get it apart. But I'll do it on camera. But I think we're gonna wrap up and make this an episode up to here, and then we'll finalize it. We'll get the pan on and the pump and the timing cover and pop the heads on. We may do a video just on the heads, but we'll see. So anyway, whatever episode this is, I think it's 2. I guess this will be episode 2. So hang loose, and episode 3 will be coming. And we appreciate you watching. Thank you so much. And like I say, if you need anything, check out the website. You can get a hold of us through the website is the best way. Instead of calling, use the email or the chat function, powellmachineinc.com. Thanks so much. See you on the next one.